protect him politically. That's another part of it. Continuity of government. Or maybe we could say in the case of the Bushes, continuity of empire for their little family clan. Now, Ted Cruz came out today and announced his candidacy for president. He's going to be making that announcement at Liberty University. I thought it was interesting and very telling that his first commercial, as Drudge pointed out, was in Spanish language only. And again, we see that when we look at Luis Gutierrez, who just had an event in Southern California that was Spanish only, the right eviscerated him for that. And yet their candidate comes out with his first speech in Spanish, his first commercial in Spanish. And I guess when we look at this, one of the things that I'm concerned about with Ted Cruz personally, what bothers me about him, is the fact that I don't think he's qualified under the Constitution to run for president. Because I don't think, as I understand it, that he meets the qualifications for a natural-born citizen. Now, those are not clearly stated. But the fundamental idea behind a natural-born citizen is that the person would have deep ties to the country, to the culture, to the system of government that we have because they grew up in this country with parents who lived in this country, identified with this country as a citizen of this country. I mean, we look at what happened with the birthers. Are we going to have a double standard there as well? You had Obama, who had a foreign-born father who was an American citizen and an American mother. Now, the question was he born in Hawaii or was he born off of United States soil? But of course, in the case of Ted Cruz, it's exactly the same thing. He has a foreign-born father, he has an American mother, and he doesn't make any bones about the fact that he wasn't born in America. He was born in Canada. And so if we're going to complain about Obama's past, if we're going to complain about the fact that he doesn't seem to have the kinds of connections, and that's essentially it, more than arguing the legal basis of a natural-born citizen, the question is, does this person have the values of America at heart? And that's something everyone will have to decide for themselves. But I'm very concerned when we look at the fact that he's put this first commercial out in Spanish. Is he promoting the values of multiculturalism, which are not tolerance? Multiculturalism is very intolerant of the native cultures in whatever country that it is brought up in, whether it's in America or whether it's in Western Europe. Because what they're trying to do is encourage people not to become part of a melting pot, not to become brothers as Americans. They're trying to get people to retain their distinctive cultures, their distinctive languages, which makes it very confusing. Are we going to have English or are we going to have Spanish as the official language of America in government? It's confusing enough when it's all written in English. We can't agree as to what it says. What are we going to do when it's multiple languages? But the issue is, does this person have the values of America at heart? It's very easy for someone to come in and to sound like a libertarian. Of course, someone as clever, as well-spoken as Ted Cruz can easily do that. But the question is he going to stand for America, or is he going to fall back to the roots of the involvement of his wife with the big banks, with Goldman Sachs? His father worked with the resistance against Castro. I'm sure he has CIA connections. Is he going to be the candidate of the North American Union, or is he going to be the candidate of America? We have someone with Canadian citizenship reaching out to people speaking Spanish. It sounds to me like he's running for the president of the North American Union. Well, stay with us right after the break. We're going to talk about the technological side of this, and it may be that the crisis that the government is worried about and preparing for in America is maybe one that's not going to be brought about by the failure of the Federal Reserve, but about robots taking our jobs. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. For a limited time, get 25% off on this introductory introductory offer. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. ancientdefense.com. Used since before the days of the Roman Empire to support the body's natural systems and enhance overall health. Introducing the new INFOWARSLife.com oil of oregano formulation, a highly advanced nutraceutical form of this key herb that has been traditionally used by civilizations for thousands of years to promote health. We have now procured the most high quality and potent forms of oregano oil on the market, sourced from top leading manufacturers to ensure a concentrated level of bioactive ingredients, extracted directly from the wild herb and sealed in easy-to-use capsules. You will no longer need to endure the burning of liquid oregano on the tongue. Wild crafted from the Mediterranean oregano species that experts agree is one of the most powerful and most challenging to acquire. This winter season, it's more important than ever to secure this true form of oil of oregano. Now available in our limited first run at INFOWARSLife.com. That's INFOWARSLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Well, for the first time, we have an actual robot reading the news in Japan. Now, of course, this is not the teleprompter Anderson Cooper or people of that ilk. No, this is an actual real robot that they're going to put on as a daily presenter in Japan. TV Tokyo will feature a humanoid robot as one of its main MCs. Now, of course, this is going to be in a kids program, but it is still the first time that a robot has landed a daily TV gig. Of course, they're going to begin by programming the kids to see that this is something that is usual. In America, of course, we've been programmed to see the teleprompters as robots for a long time. But seriously, robots are going to massively displace workers in a very short period of time. Robots, they say, will replace almost half of jobs over the next 20 years, according to an expert from the University of Oxford. This is a report coming out of Brisbane Times in Australia. They say that robots and computer programs could almost wipe out human workers and jobs, going from cooks all the way to truck drivers. They say driverless cars, even burger flipping robots. As a matter of fact, he said in 702 occupations, he believes that 47% of those are going to be overtaken by robots. And he went down very specifically about some areas. For example, he thinks 87% of the jobs in food services will be taken by robots. 75% of the jobs will be taken in transportation and warehouse, and 67% in real estate. Now, of course, you're also going to see cops in the military being rapidly replaced by robots, and that is something that is another level of danger. But just think about the fact that when we have 50% of the people displaced who no longer have jobs, what kind of an economic catastrophe, crisis, is that going to create? That is a depression. That is something that is very dangerous in and of itself. Perhaps that is why our government is preparing so hard to put down domestic insurrection, because they know this is coming. They know that it's coming very, very quickly. People will not have jobs. Many of these people that are going to be replaced, people who are flipping burgers, are going to have a very difficult time finding other types of jobs. Of course, they go on to say that he thinks that only 10% of the workers in IT, as well as software and hardware developers, will be replaced. Of course, what he's doing is he's getting these people to continue to design the ropes that are going to hang them eventually. But of course, in the meantime, they are going to be replaced by foreign workers from India who will work at a much lower wage base. So if they don't export the jobs to another country, if they don't turn them over to robots, they will bring in cheaper wage-based workers to take those jobs. Nevertheless, it looks very, very troubling for the economy and for political unrest that will follow that kind of massive unemployment. He goes on to say, in the long term, yes, we will see machines that will be potentially so intelligent as to have goals that aren't consistent with our own. Yeah, and then it starts to get pretty scary. And that's what Steve Wozniak has now come on board saying. He's joined the chorus of tech entrepreneurs who are concerned about the rise of robots and the rise of artificial intelligence that could come after us. Now, of course, we've talked to Hugo de Garis, who wrote The Artilect War. He thought that there would be a massive pushback as people started to realize how dangerous potentially these robots could become, started to see them not so much as replacing their jobs, but seeing them as a threat to the human race, saying that they're going to be so intelligent they may just keep us as pets, or they may extinguish us altogether, as Steve Wozniak is saying. But it may even be something even more prosaic. The art-like wars could begin not over these godlike intelligences that would compete with us for dominance. It could begin by these robots just becoming burger flippers and putting everybody out of work. But Wozniak goes on to say that he has grave predictions. He says computers are going to take over from humans, no question. And of course, he joins Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, they say, who has been the most vocal about his concerns about AI, calling it the biggest existential threat to mankind. And I thought this was interesting. He's become an investor, of course, in some of these AI companies like DeepMind and Vicarious. And he says it's not from the standpoint of actually trying to make any investment return. He says, I just want to keep an eye out on what's going on, because he's very concerned about it. And you all should be. One of the first places you're going to see this is when you're taking out of your car, not just if your job is as a driver in the transportation industry, but when you're taken out of your ability to move yourself around freely in this country, when every bit of movement that you have is controlled by the government. They will be controlling those computers going on there. They're rolling this technology out now very rapidly. Chevy is now putting out a parent capability to spy on their teens, because, you know, those teenagers, just like the valets when you park your Corvette, you got to worry about them. So they're going to give you surveillance tech to keep an eye out on them. And of course, you can pay extra to get that and to help them work the bugs out. This is what they're telling us in Wired Magazine. They say teenagers are terrible. Yes, but Chevy has got the solution to that. They're going to have a teen driver nanny mode available on the 2016 Chevy Malibu. It'll do things like muting the radio if the front seat drivers aren't wearing their seat belts. It'll also allow parents to put limits on their car that's associated with that specific key fob, so they can't disable safety features like stability, traction control, parking assist, daytime running lights, etc. So they're going to have all this. And here's the killer app right here. The feature will let parents see a report of total distance driven, maximum speed traveled, how many speed warnings were issued, see if there's any anti-lock or stability control events, or in other words, driver screw-ups, just like the valet mode that they put on the new Corvette. Let me explain to you that this is exactly the technology that our government is going to use against human drivers until they ban us altogether, as Elon Musk pointed out at South by Southwest last week. That's what's happening in the future. Eventually, humans will be banned from driving cars of any way, shape, or form. But in the interim, they are going to harass us mercilessly. There won't be any highway patrol. It'll be much worse than that. Everything you do will be logged and ticketed and fined. Your insurance company will know about it as well, so they can add that to your bill. They will pester and hound you to the extent that you won't be able to drive once they get you out, and you'll be begging. You'll be begging at that point for an autonomous driven car, because you won't be able to meet their specifications. You'll constantly be getting fined. You'll be begging for the autonomous car, and of course, some people are already begging for it. In another article from Wired Magazine, this writer is talking about the Mercedes robocar that premiered at the Consumer Electronics Show back in January of this year in Las Vegas. And of course, that was the big theme of the Computer Electronics Show this year, was the autonomous driving cars. There were a slew of those. Of course, the one that got the most attention, the one that was the most complete, was the Mercedes robocar. And as he points out, he's looking for, and this is a headline in the article, a shinier, safer world. That's always been the promise of technology, hasn't it? From the flying cars that we were promised back in the 1950s to now these wonderful autonomous cars that will never wreck, because I guess they won't be programmed by humans. They won't be programmed by the same people who programmed the blue screen of death for Microsoft. We'll never have to worry about them just having runaway acceleration, as we've seen in so many of the cars. So many different brands of cars have suffered from that problem. No, they're just going to put all of these systems that they've been setting up on the cars, they're going to put them all together all at once. And he celebrates the idea that we are looking forward to the death of driving. That's another part of his article here. He says, there will come a time within a few decades when the people simply will not drive anymore. And he says already, the steering wheel in this Mercedes is largely vestigial. He says, this isn't even a car that anyone would want to drive. It's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's slow. And he says he can't wait to get in it and not drive. Yeah, he's going to become one of the Eloi that we saw in The Time Machine from H.G. Wells, one of these passive, pink little flabby things that can no longer think or do anything for themselves. That's what they're looking forward to. But of course, it's already begun. We've seen